Great, thank you very much. Thanks for everybody for being here this morning. Again, my name's Jim Ekins. I'm the area water educator for University of Idaho Extension Service. Is anybody not familiar with University Extension by chance? Sort of the arm of the university that works out in the community, in the field. And my area is, my expertise is doing community-based education programs. I operate in the northern 10 counties of Idaho, and I run 2 statewide programs as well in Idaho. All of these are kind of community-based programs. I've been asked by the community to do these sorts of programs, to develop and deliver science-based programs. I've been an extension educator for 4 years. I've been at the University of Idaho for more than 10 doing hands-on experiential education in a lot of different ways. So I'm an old park ranger. I was a park ranger at several different national parks. You know, starting back in 1990, I was at the Blue Ridge Parkway. And in the early 90s, I was starting to use some of those early Project WET, some of the first generation Project WET type of learning activities to teach kids about, you know, environmental science-y kind of stuff and food webs and water cycles and watershed processes and things. I've done a lot of stream restoration work. I got my master's degree at University of Oregon on volunteer persistence, collaborative natural resources decision making, and I continue that on the side in a PhD program in conservation social sciences. So I'm as much a natural scientist as I am a social scientist, and all of that has come together for me to be to be an educator, essentially. And yeah, I'm a canoeist and a river rat. And that is really the catalyst. Ever since I was a kid, I've been in a canoe or playing around in the stream. And so I've seen the good and the bad kind of growing up. I want to, right off the bat, say that I am speaking on behalf of more than just me. This project is a consortium, and there's 26 community partners that have come together and expressed an interest in working together to develop, you know, combined combined education programs that parallel each other, that are coordinated. And one of the things I want to get across is, I'm not going to read the whole list here. Y'all can do that. Does the laser pointer work? Oh, cool. Is there a cat in the room? I have cats, and they love this. Working together is amazing. Working with lots of community partners is fantastic. It also takes an enormous amount of time because you are herding cats. You are having to keep tabs of a lot of loose ends. And if you're the project manager or the kind of the head person on something, there's an enormous amount of high quality communication that has to happen. And so just keep that in the back of your mind as we go along. You can imagine this is nice and smooth, the presentation is really cool and all that, but you should see my email inbox, you know, and the list of folders that I have for each component of this project. But it's been amazing working with these folks. There's a bunch of us that have a vision of kind of broad overall water quality, watershed, experiential education in North Idaho and Eastern Washington. And again, I'm North Idaho based, and so there's a lot of things that I learned just through osmosis from listening to y'all from Washington State. We do things a little differently in Idaho, but we have a very robust education program there. And when we partner with folks in Eastern Washington, because of the connectivity of the rivers and the aquifer there, the Spokane Valley Rathdrum Prairie Aquifer, it works really well. Lots of hands-on water science and education. We do. I've got funding from the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, a 5-star in urban waters grant, as well as the Mountaineers Foundation. And the Mountaineers Foundation has helped fill some gaps in being able to do some short videos, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Speaking of, this project includes about 12 interpretive signs all along the Spokane River Coeur d'Alene corridor along the Centennial Trail, as well as short videos that go along with each of those signs, and websites that give you more information. You click on a QR code on the sign and you can get a website to bring you more information so that you connect with the different organizations that sort of sponsored these signs. Not really sponsored, but the organizations for which the sign was created. I've got thousands of riparian trees still to plant along the river and in bio-infiltration swales and such. This project was a fantastic service learning opportunity, academic service learning, and I'll talk a little bit about that because that may be an avenue for y'all to get some work done, especially when it comes to outreach and education materials. And I'm trying to build an outdoor classroom, kind of an amphitheater kind of a thing, because we don't have anything like that. And I used the services of engineering students at the University of Idaho as part of a capstone project as a service learning program there. And eventually we'll build in a virtual geocache. I don't have a lot on that because we haven't started that process yet. I guess you got to have a mantra, a little 3-word blurb that kind of describes what you're trying to do. Now, I stole this in part from Marlene Feist from the city of Spokane, that she had a program, Cleaner River Faster, which was a fantastic program. But I wanted to also include my friends and colleagues in the aquifer protection area. And so Cleaner Water Faster became the mantra, and I have this sense, and we all have this sense, that in addition to the actual stormwater pollution that we're fighting, we're also fighting this sense that there's this perception that there's endless clean water. I do education programs for kids all the time, and I do this. Is anybody familiar with Project Wet and maybe the drop in the bucket exercise, where you start with a liter of water and you go down, and you take out the salt water, then you take out the frozen water, the glaciers and stuff, and you end up with one single drop of water that represents all the clean water that's easily accessible and available for us to use and to drink. And I say, we don't have all that much in the way of water resources. And some kid in the class will point and say, there's this giant lake over here, it's 1,000 feet deep. Dude, come on, really? There's not much water? And so I have to explain, well, okay, we're pretty fortunate up here because we have all these lakes, but this is a pretty small area and a pretty small amount of the water really that's available. So trying to get past that perception often is very, very difficult, and I think we're all fighting that, and that's something that we all probably have to work on. So the interpretive signs, there's 12 of them. There were going to be 11. We got a little extra funding. There are going to be 12 along the Idaho Centennial Trail in both Idaho and Washington. There's about 60 miles of trails there, so they'll just be kind of dotted along the way. This goes through both Kootenai and Spokane counties, and the cities of Coeur d'Alene, Post Falls, Liberty Lake, Spokane Valley, and Spokane. I used the services of graphic design students at the University of Idaho. Okay, so there are some, I printed some signs. Please pass those around and let folks take a look at those if you don't mind. You'll see a few of, I just put a few of these up here. These are 300 level students that were working on this, so they're not quite through with their studies, but they were very effective and they found it a very good and interesting project. So the first one there, I worked with the City of Spokane Valley, and they worked with the Spokane Valley Mall. This one is, this was the Spokane Valley Mall. That one was, I worked with the City of Coeur d'Alene Stormwater group, Kim Harrington. Let's see, that one, I worked with the Coeur d'Alene Lake Management Plan folks, OurGem.org. That's a combination of efforts, combined efforts by Idaho DEQ and the Coeur d'Alene Tribe. I worked with our urban forester and our urban forest committee in Coeur d'Alene to do this one. And then our wastewater treatment plant actually got 2. They kicked down for a little bit of extra funding. And so we went ahead and did 2 signs for them because Sid Fredrickson used to be just a fantastic person to work with. And he was like, oh yeah, I really want to work with students and I really want to get this education out. And there'll be more. Again, there's going to be 11 eventually. So working with students is fantastic. They have a lot of energy. They're not yet jaded and tired like some of us are. Well, wait a minute. I didn't say that, did I? Scratch that from the record. There's no limits to their creativity. In some cases, their creativity escapes kind of bounds of kind of normal. So you have to sort of sometimes kind of bring them in because they're young and impulsive, but also incredibly creative. They are still learning their craft. They're not design professionals, and so they are still working on their craft. So you have to expect that they're going to make mistakes and there's going to be some incomplete things. They always think that there's going to be more time. They always think, oh yeah, we can do this, and at the end of the semester, like, where'd the semester go? I mean, I guess we're all like that to some extent. It always helps to visit in person. If you're working with a service learning class, it always helps to visit in person and so that these students can connect a name with a face. And so these are some of the pictures. This is the design class. And they do presentations and crits and everything. And then at the end of the semester, they're pretty burned out. From their efforts, I was able to continue working on the signs the first year with an intern from this class, worked with a graphic design intern. So again, continued that experiential education for one of the students, and they were able to get these signs to an almost complete state. And Amanda Hess and I worked together to get them actually to a complete state, and they're at the printers right now. The first 11 signs, the first 8 signs are off to the printers right now. Service learning is not a volunteer. It's not a one-off volunteer activity. I used to be the director for service learning and internships at the University of Idaho, and again, as a tool, it might be helpful for you. This is not the kind of thing where the students go and they pick up trash for a couple of hours and yay, they volunteered, and that's a really good thing. This is an academic exercise that's tied to the learning objectives in their class. They will want to co-develop the project with you, the faculty member and the students. And it's not designed for, it's designed with. And so they're going to want your participation. If any community partner that works with a faculty member with the university service learning program, you got to be there for them just as they have to be there for you. Sometimes they want to. They don't want you just to dump them with a bunch of stuff and say, here, assemble this kind of assembly line style. They want to develop their use of theory, and so you want to give them some content, but then they're going to give you, they may or may not give you what you want. Failure can be an option. I'm good friends with the executive director of the Palouse Land Trust, and she has students do education and outreach campaigns, sort of model campaigns for her, and sometimes it's just these students they're not even close, they don't even get it. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they do amazing work, too. So you have to be very careful. We worked very hard, the faculty member and I worked very hard to create a very specific design brief. It's the same kind of design brief you would give to a design professional if you were going to do an outreach campaign or interpretive signs or anything like that. But we had to make it fit for 12, or 8 different community partners plus the students. So we worked for about a week trying to make sure that design brief was spot on. But still, failure could blow up. The wings could fall off in midair, and it just happens that way sometimes. Generally speaking, that doesn't happen. The faculty member gets it together and works with the students, reframes the project so you at least have something. But you may not have exactly what you want. In this case, we were very fortunate. We worked very, very closely, and we actually got some pretty good interpretive signs. I worked on, as a part of this, a series of short videos that work with the interpretive signs. And I'm not going to show the videos now. Or any of them, but the videos pertain to the content of each sign, and so they're kind of again interconnected together like that. And they will eventually be up. Right now, they're going through a peer review process through the university, so I can get some credit for it, which is taking a long time. But they should be out in the next few weeks. And by the way, so videos require a storyboard. It's just like any other creative or writing process. You want to create a storyboard, and that will help you organize your thoughts and your short videos. Each of these videos are anywhere from about 1.5 minutes to about 4 minutes long. One of the other really important things about this program was to purchase native plants, or at least have a budget so I could purchase little native plants, little tubelings little 6-inch tubes. We could plant those along the river as to enhance riparian buffers. These could be planted anywhere along the corridor. I had wanted to plant quite a few, maybe 500 or 600 of them along the NIC beach. Lots of people go to the NIC beach. A lot of people see these native plants and would identify with these native plants possibly a little bit more, and it would help to perhaps control erosion there. But the Army Corps of Engineers nixed that idea, even though we still think that we could probably plant them there. That's okay. We're finding more. This is the NIC beach. That's my dog. That's Sunny. We're out for a run. And this is at the high water. This is the high water about a month and a half ago. You can see it's way up. Where those trees are right there. Normally the water is just below those trees right there. So you can see that was a rain on snow, high water, about a month and a half ago or so. But it's along this area. This is where we wanted to. Around the corners where we wanted to plant a bunch of those trees. We're still going to plant some in the bio-infiltration swale, the demonstration swale, and around the outdoor classroom that I'll talk about here in a little bit. Some of them have been planted. We had a great workshop day with the Spokane County soil conservation district, and we had volunteers go out and we planted probably 300 of those little trees. So that was a great little opportunity. And again, there's more little shrubs, and there's more opportunities, I'm sure. I wanted to develop an outdoor classroom. That's another important part of this. So Kootenai County doesn't have anything like this. There's no place where we can get 120, fourth graders together to do programs and tell stories and things like that. Right now, you can see that bottom left photo. That's at our Coeur d'Alene campus there in Coeur d'Alene, and we bring 140 fourth graders from Hayden Meadows Elementary to do a station-style event where they tour the wastewater treatment plant, and then they come in and we talk about water quality, and we talk about the plankton in the lake, and we talk about the macroinvertebrates in the stream, stuff like that. And during lunch we try to have a story time with the tribe cultural guy from the Coeur d'Alene tribe, and we're just sitting out in the parking lot basically because that's the only place we have. And so I want to develop an outdoor classroom. It's not going to look quite like that one, but this outdoor classroom comes. That photo is that's at an elementary school somewhere. Yeah, and you can pass. Go ahead and pass that around, and also those. Not those, the packets there. Yeah. So I've got some. I'll get to this in just a second. You can start passing that around though. But this gave me an idea. This prompted me. Hey, wait a minute. We could have something like that. We could have an auditorium, sort of an amphitheater, I guess is the word I'm looking for, combined with a bioinfiltration swale right there next to the river. And people could make that connection between stormwater and stormwater filtration, natural treatment of stormwater, and this goes out right to the river right there. So that was sort of the idea I had in mind. And this is the area I had in mind. It's this horribly overstocked, shrubby little place. It's full of far too many little ponderosa pines. But the classroom will be off to the right of that photograph there. You can see the Spokane River is just off at the very left edge of that. That's the Centennial Trail that goes through. The classroom itself, so the swale in question is off to the right, and the classroom will be behind that great big tree, kind of right on the point of land there. And you can see that this swale needs some TLC. It has a lot of weeds in it. What we want to do is re-engineer that a little bit, put in some better soil, and plant a bunch of riparian plants in and around that swale as a demonstration bioinfiltration swale, kind of connected to the classroom. The classroom will be, here we're looking, there's the sight lines are terrible. This is a cyclocross track that goes through there. The classroom will be off to the left of that. This is kind of the high point between where the classroom will be and where the bluff drops off to the river. And so as a matching funding thing from Aquifer Protection District, we got $1,000 to do a topographical survey. And you can see my technical and artistic abilities there. That green blob, that's about all I could do to denote the location of the classroom. So it's obvious that I'm not an engineer. I don't even pretend to be an engineer. I'm not even one on TV. So I can do that. I can do a green blob, but then you get 400 level capstone engineering students, and they can actually develop and design a really amazing space, a really amazing classroom. And so what you're seeing here is the blue area there. That's that existing bioinfiltration swale that, again, we want to kind of recreate and renovate. And then the rest of it, the light green is kind of a presenter area, the stage, and then the darker green with the stripes there. We're going to use basalt blocks. Basalt columns on their side as benches, and also to kind of contour it. We'll have a little presenter platform. I think there we go, that might make more sense. There's the bioinfiltration swale. We want a little shade structure that has a living roof. Basically, what we want you to, the idea here is this is not an outdoor classroom. This is a series of BMPs. It's going to have permeable pavers. It's going to have a bioinfiltration swale. It's going to have a living roof. It's going to have, all the runoff is going to seep in, and it happens to be in the shape of an outdoor classroom. And so that's sort of the pitch that I gave when I was writing this grant. So we worked with 400 level capstone engineering students. All three of the engineering students in that photo there, that team, they've all got jobs. They're off. They're away. They just graduated last weekend, and they're now off in the engineering world. And so they got this they took their 4 years of their engineering schooling and they put it all together in this project. And so I've sent around, that's what those packets are. Those are the final report. The ones that are just stapled together is just the final report. There's a binder if you really want to nerd out on all their calculations, their stormwater calculations and the soil stuff that they did and compaction stuff. You can nerd out on that too if you'd like. The only thing I want back is that binder, please. If anybody wants to keep any of the interpretive signs or wants to keep the final report that's stapled together, you're welcome to do so. That's just fine. But these students did a fantastic job. Again, they were seniors. So with the graphic design students, they're 300 level. They're going into the second half of their junior year. And they had some theory and some experience in class, but they really hadn't had a whole lot yet of upper level classes. And so these engineering students, you could tell there's a difference in their sophistication and how their thinking was, their sophistication of their thinking. So again, it was super important to develop strategic partnerships with a number of different organizations to make this all happen. I'm still working with the city of Coeur d'Alene to make sure that this outdoor classroom works and all the different layers of planning and design approvals and such. One of the things that that made this happen, that helped with this grant, the BLM has these old railroad right-of-ways. Let me go back to that linear structure on the bottom right there, kind of at an angle. That's an old railway right-of-way. It's built up, and there's a bunch of these kind of along through there. Those railroads don't exist anymore, so that land converted back to BLM land. Now, BLM is in the process of essentially transferring that land to the city of Coeur d'Alene. And the value of that land, I was able to use the value of that land as part of the matching value for this grant, because the city of Coeur d'Alene is allowing me to work with them to place this outdoor classroom, to enhance this bioinfiltration swale and turn it into an educational center. This is all right next to, by the way, is right next to the University of Idaho Coeur d'Alene campus, just down the street from the North Idaho College campus, and right there in what will be the Four Corners Park, which is a big linear park that is under development right now in the part of Coeur d'Alene. So there's this intersection of these things that enabled all of this to happen. One of the other cool things about working with service learning students is you can count their volunteer hours. Independent Sector every year publishes a value of volunteer effort. And I think it's something like $24 an hour for the federal rate. It's much less for Idaho. It's in the teens, upper teens for Idaho, and it's about the same for Washington as the federal rate. But between all of the graphic design students and all of the engineering students, I have about the value of about $55,000 of volunteer time, with a couple of assumptions of how many hours that they worked. But those are safe assumptions, and I knew we've calculated those several times over in the past, and so I knew how to make those calculations. So that volunteer effort, if you're writing grants and you can get service learning students, you can get volunteers, write those estimated hours into your grant proposal as matching value, because I couldn't do it without them. I could not do this without their help. So the BLM is working. We're also working closely with the Coeur d'Alene tribe and BLM to make sure that we're doing things in a culturally sensitive way. We're not digging up any artifacts. That we're being appropriate with our design. The Coeur d'Alene tribe definitely wants us to bring in some culturally important plants and other design elements. And so again, it's working. It might take an extra year. It already has taken an extra year, but these things are important to do and to take the time with. I work closely with a lot of regional stormwater educators to provide the kind of educational outreach and support that's impactful and meaningful. And if anybody was in the education program yesterday, you know that there's a lot of talk about assessment and that there's a lot of interest in understanding how impactful our education programs are. And to get rid of kind of those that aren't as impactful, let's set those aside and let's develop new ones, or let's take those that aren't as impactful as they should be and let's build in more robustness and make them more impactful and to articulate what that impact is. And so I've been working, again, this whole project is more than just these individual components. It's really a springboard for us to work together as 26 widely spaced, geographically organizations. All 26 partners had a say in a lot of this. All 26 partners wrote a letter of support, and I think all 26 of these partners are getting some benefit out of this program. So again, National Fish and Wildlife Foundation gave us about $37,000, which, you know, I mean, this is the size of program I'm used to working on. The Mountaineers Foundation gave us $3,000 to kind of make sure that we had enough for all of the short videos for the Interpretive Signs. I can't thank them enough. On the broader picture, the Confluence Project, the Youth Water Summit. I literally, Monday, I spent all day at the Youth Water Summit. Is anybody here involved with the Kids in the Creek program? I was talking to somebody yesterday about that. It's an education program here in Washington State, especially here on the kind of the central part here in Yakima and Wenatchee area. And they get high school kids into the stream to learn about collecting water quality data. And we do the same thing. We use the IDA H2O protocol, and I'll tell you about that in a second, to collect water quality data. And we go do a pre-lesson and we do a post-lesson. We also get those high school kids up into the snow. We do snowpack studies. We strap snowshoes on them, and we hike them up to near a snowtail site, and we have them measure the snow water equivalent and all the different layers of the snow, and then we bring them back to the classroom and have them not only calculate how similar their snow water equivalent was to the snowtail site, and we ask them why were they the same, why were they different, but we also have them calculate long-term trends, and that's really cool for them to see. They also, in addition to all of that, find a problem. They research that problem, they research potential solutions, and then they present their research and their solutions at a conference. That's the Youth Water Summit. And so it's called Investigative Learning. And we actually have them not just go and collect water from the stream and all of that, but we actually make them apply that in a real-world setting and make them stand up in front of a judge. And the judges are, you know, water quality experts, the folks from DEQ, the folks from the tribe, people from other organizations that have an interest in clean water. And so, the students they're electric on the bus ride home because they have talked with and interacted with professionals in the field, and they learn an enormous amount. So that's been a really good program. Other programs like the iSTEM from Excellence, that's a 3rd, 4th, 5th grade program that Sarah Halstead and I put together in the Lakeland School District. You know, again, it's investigative learning. We have the kids learning about water and water quality, learning about the aquifer and water quality there, stormwater issues, swales and things, and then we actually have them working with experts in the field and working with data. Even at that level, even at that 4th grade level, they're able to do quite a bit. One of my statewide programs is the IDA H2O Master Water Stewards. It's a citizen science volunteer water quality monitoring program. I've got some flyers here. I can pass those around too. Gratuitously, I'll advertise my program as long as I have a captive audience. But I use those same protocols, and I break them up into bite-sized chunks for elementary school kids, and I teach high school kids the entire program and send them on their way with that. There's some QA/QC concerns when you're working with students and water quality data like that. So we keep a separate in our hydrologic information system. We have a separate place for student work than our regular volunteer work. Water education for teachers. So I saw a few hands. Some of you knew about Project WET. Fantastic program. It's a national, international program. Project WET has a whole thick book of water-based learning activities, and they're all vetted, and they've been peer-reviewed, and they've been tested extensively. If you ever get a chance to take a Project WET class, do it. It'll give you an enormous amount of resources that you can go and get kids, you know, active and also get them thinking about water. I also, in addition to all of that, I have to publish. 15% of my job is publishing. And so when you see extension bulletins and extension publications, some of those will come from me. My most recent was one on rural living and water. And what do you need to know as somebody about to buy some rural property, well safety and septic tank safety and setbacks from streams and riparian zones and things like that. We have a lot of desired things we want to do at University of Idaho. Some of these we've got a dock and a boat now, a research boat. But we want to do more bioinfiltration swale research. We want to get more kids and adults out on the boat to learn about the lake and actually get out there on the lake and see it and feel it and touch it. And eventually, I mean, there's a dream. Wouldn't it be great to partner with Puyallup and partner and make this, this I-90 all the way along a center for stormwater research? Wouldn't that be an incredible thing? Because we have areas of high rain and really low rain, and then Coeur d'Alene is somewhere in between, and you have this ramping up from 14 inches a year to 26 inches a year between Spokane and Coeur d'Alene. You have this very steep curve there. So, you've got this really interesting possibility. That's kind of off in the distance. Awesome. We are right on time. Again, kind of bringing us back up to that 30,000 foot level, this is sort of my philosophy, that if you want to build a ship, don't drum to the men, give orders, and, gather wood and all of this, but instead teach them to yearn for the vast and endless sea. Now, I know that education isn't the be-all, end-all. You're not going to be able to do everything with education, but education is a low-hanging fruit, and as long as you're understanding and articulating the impact of those education programs, and you're working with multiple partners, and I think that may be a theme for this conference quite a bit, at least an underlying, one of the threads, you can do a lot, and you can get people to really think about water in a different way, in a more sophisticated way.